Welcome to the Secret Underground Laboratory Recovery and Salvage, where rude mechanicals do magic. Hello, I'm Bronze Edge, Director of the Secret Underground Laboratory Recovery and Salvage. And it's time to create another woodworking project for our Cordless Woodworking Summer Camp, which is being extended into the fall. The Cordless Woodworking Summer Camp is for woodworkers age 5 and on up to however old they want to be. First project is this Rabbet box. It's called a Rabbet box because these joints on the corners are called Rabbet joints. The younger woodworkers get this as a kit where they only have to saw 2 of the boards apart, cut off the top off of this piece and then plane it down, and then assemble it and nail it together. Older woodworkers, they get a board. And with a Stanley 45 combination plane, they mill out the grooves. They use the Stanley 78 Rabbet plane to cut the rabbets on the corners. And then they put it together and end up with this handsome little box. The next project is this 12-nail tote. So called because it's got 3 nails at each corner. They pull against each other so it can't come apart. It's also an exercise in cutting angles and rabbets again on the corners. The tool chest is put together with not only the rabbet joints, but screws instead of nails. And the hinges are mortar stem. They use a chisel on one, and they use a Stanley No.71 Router Plane on the other. This is a project as well, called the girlfriend bench. The legs are shaved out on a shaving horse. Holes are drilled with a big T-ham auger, and then hardwood wedges are put in there to hold it in place. It's called the girlfriend bench because it's just wide enough for 2 people to sit on, with no space in between them. Now, the latest project is this wall shelf with the French cleat to hold it up. I'm going to make one of these using the tools that the woodworker is going to use, the procedure they're going to use, see what kind of problems come up, so we'll be able to avoid them. And I appreciate it if everybody would stick around and watch. Thank you very much. I spent a lot of time on the layout and the measuring and the marking, because what I've discovered is apparently in modern schools, this is not a kids today kind of rant, they don't spend a lot of time on reading a rule, whether it's in metric or inches, I don't know. But most of them can't tell a 1/4 inch from a 1/2 inch from an 1/8 inch, and so we always have to spend a little bit of time pointing out that each of these little marks makes a difference. I try to keep the frustration level to a minimum because the age groups I'm working with for this project in particular are going to be 12 to 15-year-olds. And the younger ones, 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds, simply don't have the upper body strength to really be able to make a good square cut on a board, on a bench, holding it down with your knee. So to help with that, I've modified this Miller Falls miter box that I can use for not only the angle cuts and the rabbet cuts, but also all the way through. The clamps are a great aid because it lets the camper concentrate strictly on pushing the saw. It doesn't have to worry about holding the board down or anything like that, or it slipping. That looks good. One thing this miter box setup has allowed me to do is compare the different saws I have. I have this Stanley, which I think they sell this as the Shark. It's got Japanese style teeth on it. This is a Craftsman Chrome Edge Taper Ground, one of my favorite saws. I've had it for a very long time, and maybe the only, well, one of the few saws I bought brand new. And it's a 10 teeth per inch. It cuts fairly well, but this Diston, either 7 or 8 teeth per inch, depending on how you measure it, which was fairly rusty when I found it. I had to clean it up a good bit, but I put a sharpening on it, and those coarse teeth go right through these boards with the least amount of effort. Certainly much better than the Stanley Shark. When you're dealing with this kind of wood, you can expect there to be a crown. Sometimes as much as 1/8 of an inch over a 5.5-inch board. So there's really not much point in trying to dress the entire thing and make it flat and square on all 4 sides. So what we're going to do, since the end only goes into the dado 3/8 of an inch, just going to get the end flat, the top on the crown, and then on the bottom side here on the outside edges. And just trim it down so it'll look good. That'll make our dado a little bit thinner, so each one will have to be custom fit when it comes time to make them like that. You start with a razor sharp point or a pencil, and then remember not to use this piece of sandpaper again for something. Just put that line across the top of the crown and across the, I guess you call these the feet of the crown, base of the crown, I don't know. should do it. For the side pieces, I'm going to turn the cup out in the hopes that that will make the dados at the edges of the shelves a little tighter. That's some kind of gap there. Lay it out to 3 shelves. Only mark one edge because I'm going to draw the dimension, the width of the dado off of the actual board. Originally, this motor box would have depended on this little clamp right here to lock it in place for a depth stop. And obviously I can't rely on that anymore. What I do have, instead of these brass bushings, go over the post, and that will set the depth of the cut probably more accurately than this little wing nut clamp ever could do. One thing you can say about a 16 tooth per inch back saw, no matter whether it's one of these Home Depot models or a $300 fancy one, is they're not made for cutting across the face of a 6-inch board. And if you're 12 years old, that's a lot of saw. So even though I've got the depth stop in here, which is made for the back saw, I have them come in with the panel saw and cut almost to the bottom of it, and then use the back saw to finish it off. And believe it or not, that cuts about 10 minutes out of the process. Wood in the dados is going to be roughed out with a chisel and then finished off with the Stanley 71 with the flat foot blade in it. And the flat foot will also be used to mark the bottom of the dado, which is critical when you're chopping with a chisel because you don't want to go too low on these things. You also want to get the back end chopped out so that you don't end up chipping and tearing the board up. It's a little looser than I wanted, but it does fit. When people ask me why I keep so much scrap wood around, I tell them that it's for situations just like these, where you got to clamp something up, unusual shape, unusual position, and you never know when that piece you cut off once back will come in handy. I'm willing to concede that there's a lots easier ways to do this, but part of the point of this project is giving somebody practice on one of these things, and this is definitely a good way to get practice. Well, that's what they call close enough for government work, since this is simply going to be a French cleat, not an edge joint to be glued together. And I have to keep remembering that I'm asking a 12 or 13-year-old to do this. And you have to keep the frustration level low. You don't want to make it practically impossible to get it done in a reasonable amount of time without wearing them out. So I think that's going to be good right there. One of the things I think is nice about this kind of woodworking class is besides your standard hammer and saw and chisel, stuff like that, they actually get to see tools that they probably have never seen before, and probably will never see again unless they actually go into this as a hobby or a profession. In addition to the 71 Router Plane, we've also got the 79 Router Plane. The 79 especially designed to take off very tiny amounts the size of these dados. And it's got a very sharp angle on the blade so that you clean up the end grain in this kind of a dado. The sawdust that comes off of that is microscopic. But it makes so that you can create a nice snug joint, which is just what you need for a glue up. Now that all the pieces are set up, it's time to consider the assembly procedure. Now, for most woodworkers, this would mean just throwing it up on the bench, knocking it together, and being done with it. For younger woodworkers, like to reduce the frustration level, hold everything in place so they can concentrate on getting the nails driven in straight. And that's why I have these two assembly squares here. And I try to keep the mess of gluing down to a minimum as well. installed these support blocks to hold the cleat in place while the woodworker is putting in the nails. One final lesson, since this piece is intended to be painted, all the nails you hit with a nail set, a little bit of wood paste over them, and some finish sanding, and then it'll be ready to go on the wall. Well, the hanging wall shelf is finished now, and some valuable lessons were learned. I started off by planing the ends of the shelves flat to take care of the cut, and I was intending to measure them and cut the dado to match, but they all came out to exactly 11/16. So when the woodworker actually takes on this project, I think we're going to cut the dados first, and then we'll plane the shelves to match. He gets to take it home with his French cleat, probably something he's never seen before. And a French cleat is a very versatile and easy to use way to hang just about anything heavy on a wall. It goes underneath here and just hooks into that angle. And the angles match perfectly because he planed them together. Another advantage of a French cleat is that you don't have to get it exactly centered because it can move back and forth a little bit. And if it's not exactly level, a couple of pieces of cardboard can be put on top of the angle there and lifted up on one side or the other. So, this is Bronze Age for the Secret Underground Laboratory Recovery and Salvage. I thank you for watching this video. I hope that you will like and subscribe, share this with your friends, tell all your family, maybe even hire a skywriter to put something about it on a clear day. That might be a little excessive. In any case, we appreciate you watching this video. Please take a little time to look at all our other videos, and we'll be back soon with some more. Thank you very much.